How long have you lived in the area? Just the surrounding area. Yeah.
I've been in the area total, not all at one time, but total, roughly 70 years.
Um, what did you do as a child, like for fun?
I was here for my first 18 years of my life. I was here. And back then, Ludlow had all kinds of kids. And I lived on High Street. And we had what we called the High Street gang. Not a gang like a bad gang, but during the summertime, we'd get together every night and play games, hide and seek, bicycle tag, flashlight tag, kick the can. And of course, I was a sports nut, so we played basketball and baseball and soccer and football. And we played, if it was raining, we'd go inside and play board games like Monopoly and Risk and War and all those kinds of things. We had a great time. We would get together probably 4 days out of every week. And it was the same in other places in town. There was the big group down on Pleasant Street and the big group up by the tracks here. Big group up by Dorsey Park. So there were kids all over.
Did you ever like compete against any of the other groups?
Not in the sense of group against a group, but if we got together and picked up for basketball or baseball or something, we would be competing. And we had a very strong little league at that time, so we would compete against it. It was all Ludlow, Cavendish, Parkersville kids, so we would compete against them, of course.
What do you know about your ancestors?
Um, Actually, not a lot. I'm a mongrel. I have all kinds of blood in me: German, Irish, Dutch. My father's family came from the Adirondacks in New York, and I've been over there. And my mother came from a family that started out in Danby and then moved to Ludlow.
Tell me about your school years.
My school years?
I probably more as a student than as a teacher, but
Yeah. Well, as a student, I came here when I was here. When I first started, we didn't have an elementary school across here, and this building had grades 1 through 12. In grades 9 through 12 were up on the third floor, and then 6 through 8 were on the middle floor, and the bottom floor was elementary. And then as the enrollment grew, for 2 or 3 years, they had there are classrooms. Are you familiar with the community center in the Armory?
yep.
There are classrooms there, and while they were building the elementary school, grades 1, 2, and 3 met over in the community center, or was the Armory at that point. And then gradually, they when I was in junior high, they opened up the elementary school. So I was here for 18 for until I was 18 years old, grades 1 through 12, and they didn't have kindergarten back those days. It wasn't mandatory. Some kids went and some kids didn't. I didn't go. I went to college for 4 years after that, and then I taught for 2 years in New Hampshire, and then I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and then I came back here and taught for 39 years.
Where'd you go for college?
Gordon College, which is in uh, about 25 miles northeast of Boston. Very, very nice place. It's right close to the ocean, about 5 miles from the ocean. Small school, about the size of Castleton.
Were there any things that you did for fun back then that like you can't easily do now? Well, the royal you, like I couldn't do.
Well, all those games I told you we used to play, we'd all get together. I think you'd have trouble in Ludlow now getting together that many kids to play. And of course, uh, back then we didn't have all video games and all those snazzy technology things that you have now. So you have that advantage. I don't think you guys do things like board games or sit around and just chat and converse it, but I think you tend to glue yourself in front of a game or TV, that type of thing.
Yeah. Um. So when you were a kid, was Okemo around or no?
Okemo had just started. I don't know if Earl told you about that, but again, when we were in elementary school, they used to have a ski lift out here. Did anybody mention that? There was an old-fashioned ski lift that went up the hill past where the baseball field is, and it was run by an old rope tow. I don't know if you've seen any of those old-fashioned rope tows. It was run by a truck engine, and it would just take you up the hill, and you would come back. Well, Kilo was just starting. Uh, I was not a big skier because my basketball coach was one of these guys that's afraid you're going to get injured, so he didn't want to ski. We had a really good basketball team. We won the league 5 years in a row, I think. But he didn't want us getting hurt, so he didn't want us ice skating or skiing in the wintertime. So I never learned to really ski until I got out of high school. But the skiing was just getting started. Uh, they probably when I was in my late teens, they were opening up maybe two or three trails, and that was it. And then when I was away at college and in New Hampshire in the Air Force, that's when they really built Okemo up.
Was there any overlap between the mill and Okemo?
Between the mill and what?
The Okemo.
You mean the mill as in the mill that's by Cafe Delight, or all the mills that were in town?
Either the one by yeah, the one by Cafe, but like as a mill and not a hotel or something.
Yeah. Well, the mill that is called the mill, which is a condominium, which is by Cafe Delight, at one point was where General Electric was. And then General Electric, again in my teen years, they moved to Rutland.
So they were open while you were here.
Yeah, and it was one of the biggest employers in Ludlow. They probably had 45, 50 guys working for them, and 90% of them made the move to Rutland. And gradually, as they got older and retired, I think the last Ludlow person that had worked in the Ludlow plant retired maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But the mill was the original GE plant, and now it's a condominium for Alice Fitters.
What do you do for fun now?
Now, well, I still like sports, but I don't compete in any teams. I've got 7 grandkids, and they all are athletic, so we go out and shoot baskets or throw the football or kick the soccer ball or with the ball or whatever. We do a lot of that, and again we play the games inside like categories and Risk and those types of games.
Do they live nearby?
Yes, they all 5 of them are in Springfield and 2 are in Rutland. So, but they've all graduated from high school now, except for one that you heard me telling Mr. Blockett that she's in 7th grade. She's in middle school. Very athletic. And I do a lot of hiking. I hike a lot in the summertime, and I do cross country skiing and snowshoeing in the wintertime, and I do geocaching a lot. I don't know if you know what. Do you know what geocaching is?
That's why you look at the little boxes and tubes out on the map.
People hide things way out in the woods. It might be 5 miles out in the woods. It could be on the front lawn here at the high school. But and then they put the coordinates online, and you pick it up. Like you could go to Springfield, and it would tell you how many geocaches are around Springfield and what the coordinates are, and you jot them down and get your GPS out and go and try to find it. And there might be something as small as my fingernail, or it might be something as big as a shoebox. And you go out and try to find it. The ones that are fun are the ones that are 4 or 5 miles out in the woods. Then you have to hike out and try to find them, and then you come back and log in and say you found it, or you didn't find it. And if you didn't find it, that's important because maybe it's gone. Because sometimes people will find them and haven't got the slightest idea what they are, so they'll pick them up and take them home, which is tough. If you've gone 4 or 5 miles out in the woods to find it, and someone has taken it, you're out of luck.
What's one of your favorite places to hike?
Wow, man, I've got many of them. I've done Okemo 6 or 7 times. I've done
The whole thing?
Yeah, either from Ludlow side or from Mount Holly side. I've done all the ones in when our former pastor, not the pastor that we have now, Jerry Schumann, but the former pastor, Tom Deibler, you probably heard his name. Anyway, he and I did hiking. When he retired and moved to California, I wrote down for him all the trails that we had covered, and it was over 80 trails that we had covered, and a lot of them more than once. A lot of them in the Lake George area in New York, the Adirondacks, the one in New Hampshire, the White Mountains, and so forth. But that was when I was a little younger. Now I probably don't take much over a 5 mile hike. So I ought to get you and Henry on one of those.
What, the 5 mile hike?
Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. My sister lives in Rutland. 2 brothers live in Ludlow, and 1 brother lives in California.
Where in California?
Out about 90 miles north of Los Angeles in Santa Barbara. Very, very, very nice area.
Are you close?
Not now. Age-wise, he's 14 months older than I. So when we were growing up, of course, we did all kinds of things together. But he's been in California now for probably 40 years. So,
You don't see your child.
So he's hoping to come out for the eclipse in April, but I don't know if he will or not.
I can't think of anything else to ask. What was teaching like?
Well, I love education. I just absolutely love teaching, and I taught Spanish in the room across the hall. I don't know if you still have room numbers on there, but room 23 across the hall for the most part. But I also taught up in room 30 for a couple of years, room 31 for a couple of years, and the next door, room 25 for a couple of years. But the Spanish classes were, for the most part, Spanish 1 might have been 14 or 15 kids. The Spanish 2 might be 9 or 10. The Spanish 3 and 4 was maybe 4 or 5 kids. So it was really fun to teach because in Spanish you're doing a language, so you're chatting with the kids. You're asking them questions. And you can ask just about anything as long as you do it in Spanish, and no one's going to complain, right? So, and I was involved with sports. I coached basketball for several years and softball for a few years, and helped out with soccer and baseball. So I got to know the kids a lot, and I took. Was that me? And I took kids to Spain about every 3 years. I'd take a group of kids to Spain.
Did you only teach Spanish?
When I started out, I taught English and Spanish, but then I built it up so I just do Spanish.
And if you could pick one subject to teach, which would it be?
Spanish. Spanish 3 or 4. You can really zip along then. Well, we had a good school, really good school going here. You know, it was small. You knew all the kids. You got involved with their activities, sports or band or glee club or whatever, fundraising and all that type of thing. And you got to know the families very well.
Are you still like connected to any of the kids that you taught?
The what?
The kids that you taught?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm connected to your father because your father goes to Alaska, and I spent 2.5 years in Alaska in the Air Force. That we really, if you like the outdoors, you have to love Alaska.
What'd you do in the Air Force?
I was technically a radio operator. It was intelligence, reconnaissance.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's all secret stuff, so I can't really say it.
Did you go to college for teaching, like for an education major?
Yes. Here at this school, when I was in the school, the languages were French and Latin. And I really liked languages, so I went to college with the idea of studying languages and being a teacher. And that's what happened. But I took Spanish in college and liked that better than French, so I never went back to French. I stayed with Spanish and learned Portuguese and Russian.
What? Would you like to do a tour?
What's that?
A tour? Would you like to do a tour of the building?
I would love to do it to it.
Okay.
See what it looks like.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.